Why settle for incremental growth when you can boost your revenue, cut costs, and adopt new technology more quickly? Why navigate the complexities of AI and the complex tech projects or technology projects alone when you can have insights from the forefront runners and the innovation providers such as Glorium Technologies? What the world's leading AI and technology experts are doing right now to transform healthcare and life science organizations and drive unparalleled growth right now is what we're discussing in these podcasts. This podcast is your gateway to the answers, providing a deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence and its power to amplify your revenue, to cut costs and adopt those efficiencies that are critical to deliver patient care, especially around healthcare and life sciences. So my name is Dudley Peacock, and I'm joined by our AI and technology expert, our resident expert, Dmitry Stepanov. And welcome to our podcast, The Revenue Amplifier, AI in Action. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this week on our AI in Action, our revenue acceleration program, where we talk a lot about AI. This week, Dmitry is also still traveling, so we're going to be focusing on a specific use case. And I thought the best way to deal with this week's episode is to take you a little under the hood in terms of what it is that we actually do as a company in your space. So in order to do that, I've selected AI-driven supply chain optimization. And AI-driven supply chain optimization is really looking at areas such as procurement and planning. And when we look at those areas, I think the key takeaway there for me is with supply chain optimization, it affects everybody. It affects everybody all the way from the raw material suppliers to the manufacturers to the wholesalers, distributors, all the way into the retailers or the salespeople or whoever the consumer or the end user of the product or services. Supply chain management is critical. So enhancing procurement and planning. So procurement is the purchase of supply of, let's say, products, and planning would be how do we get the right number of or quantity of items, and how do we get the right items at the right quality at the right price? And that's a lot to do with the planning side of things as well. So let's have a quick look. So leveraging AI, the big promise there is to improve productivity. So improving productivity is taking your current workforce, your current people, your current technology. I've heard people call it sweating the assets or maximizing your investment. So you're investing in paying people salaries, in overhead like buildings, or even in terms of your software and other items. Even developing intellectual property is a cost to companies. So productivity improvements means we're getting more return out of the input or the payments that we are making. Streamlining operations is an ongoing thing for most organizations. Streamlining operations often is a lot to do with how do we make this thing quicker? How do we make it higher quality? How do we make whatever it is that we're doing? Streamlining operations is about making sure that we're doing everything as efficiently as possible. And then achieving sustainable growth. Leveraging AI is not just a one-hit wonder. It's about achieving growth that can be sustained over a long period of time. And the only way we can do that and stay competitive at the same time is achieving sustainable growth is critical, because this is the longevity, the length of time at which we could continue running as a business. So sustainable growth is critical. You're either growing or you're dying. And we are biological organisms, so we're either in a growth mode or we're in a dying mode. And as an organization, we always want to be in growth. So growth is all about adopting new technologies and improved ways to sustain and creating continued sustainable growth. So AI supply chain and AI-driven supply chain or optimization is the focus of our quick chat today. And the enhancing procurement and planning activities are the focus areas for me are identifying cost-effective suppliers. We making sure that we have the right suppliers, the cost-effective suppliers we're buying from. I've seen it where there've been multiple, let's say, acquisitions. Companies have been acquired, yet they haven't integrated their purchasing departments, for instance. And you might have two different companies or divisions buying from the same supplier, but not getting the, let's say, optimal discounts, not buying from the most optimal suppliers, or not getting the right pricing or even delivery days. So identifying cost-effective suppliers is critical. Predicting potential disruptions, another focus area. You'll see we're going to cover that in AI, and AI really is that the muscle power, the superpower, if you like, to help you predict potential disruptions. Now, we know that when there's a disruption in the supply chain, it becomes very difficult or impossible to deliver your products or services. And then the third focus area today is optimizing inventory management. And inventory management is an ongoing thing. It's been like that for a very, very long time. You don't want to hold onto more inventory than you need to. And the example I have really is I've heard people say that they have more money invested in their inventory than they have in their bank accounts. So the optimizing of your inventory management, absolutely critical. If we then go down one step further and we say, if we reduce procurement costs, so when we're looking at procurement costs, so what is a procurement cost? Is the number of people sitting there doing purchasing, procuring, checking suppliers, onboarding suppliers, reprimanding suppliers that haven't actually delivered like they promised. The whole reduction of procurement costs is not just getting the cheapest price, but it's the cost of actual procurement. What kind of software are we using? Are we using optimized software to help us better analyze and view our procurement activities, as well as the performance of those activities? Enhancing supply chain reliability. Now, reliability in supply chain is critical, especially for certain critical inventory items that you cannot do without. So when you are trying to deliver your product or service and you don't have that reliability, your reliability is often perceived from your customer's point of view, your patient, your customer, your client. If you're unable to deliver, they're not worried about the supply chain behind you. All they are worried about is that their needs need to be fulfilled. So supply chain reliability is a critical metric and a key competitive advantage if you get that 100% right. Streamlining inventory management. Streamlining of inventory management is a crucial area, because it is an ongoing let's call it a science and a study and a continuous development of streamlining the way that you manage your inventory, where it gets kept, how it gets imported or brought into your storeroom or your distribution warehouse, and streamlining that process. Sometimes it's better to go direct to the endpoint. Other times it's better to centralize the distribution. And then strengthening supplier relationships. Supplier relationships are critical these days. Sometimes there are only a few key suppliers that will provide certain items to you. And having strong relationships means that you can call on them at times of difficulty, or if you need a rapid supply of a particular item. And having a good relationship means that you increase your reliability for your delivery, but also increase your ability, if things go wrong, to get them fixed. So let's look at some of the specific examples. So supplier cost analysis is a specific example of where AI can be leveraged. So data collection. So gathering data on supplier performance, we are able to collect and gather data, looking at historical pricing, so looking at trends, trend analysis, and then also looking at your market conditions, having a bigger picture view, not just focused on specific suppliers, but understanding the global market conditions and conditions within your local market of how that affects your costs. If we look at cost comparisons, we've done data collection. If we look at cost comparisons, can we analyze data to identify the most cost-effective suppliers? Often we have so many suppliers, and if we have a number of suppliers, we even have sometimes hundreds, if not thousands, of line items of inventory items, different sizes, shapes, and things of different products and prices. Each line item is difficult for someone to manage, especially when you have to do that as a bulk data. So the ability to do cost comparisons, analyze data to identify the most cost-effective suppliers. If you got the correct tools, the superpower to be able to slice and dissect and analyze the actual most cost-effective suppliers, you're able to buy correctly and also buy correctly from the right suppliers. And then supplier selection. So recommended suppliers based on cost, reliability, and quality metrics. So cost, reliability, and quality metrics are some of the KPIs that you could be measuring your suppliers by. So imagine this. You've got supplier selection and you're going through your suppliers and you're just buying regularly from suppliers because you've always bought from particular suppliers. But what you're not what's under the hood and what you're not seeing is potentially they have let slip on the quality potential or the reliability, or their cost has increased incrementally without you realizing it, and you're now spending more than a competitor or someone else that you could go to, a competitor supplier of theirs. So making sure that you select the right supplier and you're continuously evaluating those suppliers is where AI can really use its muscle power and its ability to analyze data very, very quickly and be able to give you the result you're looking for. Let's look at another, let's call it an area that within the supply chain. So disruption and prediction. When we look at disruption prediction, one of the key areas is to look at risk assessments. Analyzing geographical events, weather patterns, market volatility. Those are the macro things that often are not taken into account when you're looking at predicting where your supply is coming from, what is happening going into the future, and are you able to do a proper risk assessment in terms of your supply chain. Predictive alerts often provide you early warnings of potential disruptions. So potential disruptions, they happen. Things happen in any kind of environment. And if you can have a predictive alert, so somewhere early on in the supply chain, you are alerted to certain things happening. These things can be providing early warnings so that you know that somewhere down the line it's going to impact you, and you can take mitigating actions to overcome those alerts. Then if you look at contingency planning, which talks into the alerts, but contingency planning is now to be able to develop and implement contingency plans based on better knowledge, better understanding of your disruption prediction into the future and into the current and future market conditions. And then the third area that is really a good place to look in terms of supply chain management, and that is your inventory optimization. Inventory optimization has got a lot to do with your demand forecasting. Now, the amount of demand forecasting tools out there, there are a lot, and the ability to predict sort of demand-based on historical data and market trends has been the science behind inventory optimization. And demand forecasting is made a lot easier by having the right tools, the correct data sets, and having the correct tools to rapidly analyze and forecast correctly. We have stock level management, so optimize your inventory levels to avoid overstock or stock out. So overstock means you've got too much stock, and stock outs means you you run out of stock, literally. So we need to look at the inventory level, the stock level management. And then lastly are the reorder alerts. Now, those often are built into a lot of the standard systems, but the reorder alerts could potentially even come from a bigger picture. So reorder alerts, what some companies are doing now are looking at their buyer behavior even online. As an example, there are some suppliers out there that would look at what the search volume is for particular products or services out there. They would look at the search volume and then use those as reorder alerts long before the person has actually gone through to complete the purchase, as an example. A reorder alert could be a consumer that's searching, or a bunch of consumers that's searching, and based on the volume of search, the intensity of the search, you could be triggered, and you can be triggered to say, okay, it's time to reorder because there's going to be a spike in certain products or services coming up in the future. So generating automated alerts for timely reordering helps you, especially if you've got long lead times before you can deliver an item. So the reorder alerts are critical in terms of inventory optimization. Okay, so let's look at the workflow impact. So we've covered those three areas, and the three areas are the supplier cost analysis. We've looked at this disruption prediction, and we've looked at the inventory optimization. Now, the workflow impact. Let's quickly go through workflow impact. So workflow impact is procurement processes. So we're looking at enhanced supplier evaluation and selection, and as I mentioned earlier, you could do continuous supplier evaluation, not just at the time when you sign up a new supplier or when you start engaging with a new supplier. You don't just, it's not a one and done thing. It is continuous evaluation, but enhanced supplier evaluation and selection when it comes to each order that gets placed down to that micro level, as opposed to only updating your supplier lists once a quarter, once a year, once a month, and so on. Then we look at supply chain monitoring. Real-time tracking and performance monitoring is important, so we can get to see what's happening in the supply chain during the life cycle, from order all the way through to final delivery. Risk management. So the scenario analysis means we're creating what-if analysis. And the beauty about having a powerful tool like AI, what you can do is you can do several what-if scenarios, as in, what if something goes wrong? What if I get overstocked? What does it actually cost me? What happens if I'm understocked? What happens if there are certain, let's say, macroeconomic conditions, like market conditions, or the market is in decline, or there's a seasonal adjustment coming, or there's an interest rate that's going up, and the central bank is increasing interest rates or reducing interest rates. So all these things may or may not affect your supply chain. And then the inventory management. So optimizing stock levels and automating replenishment. Inventory management is critical, as I mentioned, but optimizing your stock levels and your automated replenishment are some of the workflow impacts that we can deliver. All right, let's look at some of the benefits. So cost savings, as we mentioned, the improved reliability, efficiency gains, and that critical unseen element of strong supplier relationships. Those relationships where you could build on and get better discounts, to get better delivery of services, get more reliability, and also be able to call on your suppliers when things do go wrong. So let's quickly look at what an implementation plan looks like when you're trying to implement AI. And when you do implement AI, there are basically 5 steps. Step 1 is we will come in and we'll do an assessment and a data collection. So we'll come and look at what the current data is that you got available. We'll assess those items. We'll look at the different touch points across your various tech stack, for instance, your technology you currently have in place, or any connections with suppliers, or any other data that you collect, maybe from the markets, maybe from commodity markets, because your end product relies heavily on those types of things. Phase 2 is we look at we do the AI solution development. So we actually go and we take the workflows. We'll from the assessment phase, which is often a deep dive, where we'll sit with individuals or teams or do workshops, and we'll map out in detail the workflows that you do in your company, that you perform in your company. And we will look at managing those workflows. Those workflows sometimes can be, just through conversation, can be already improved. The next level of improvement then is to bring in certain automations, which a lot of people already have been doing. So they try to automate a lot of steps so they can remove human error or just human involvement. But where the real superpower comes in is where you are able to use the power of AI to improve not just the automation, but the connection between lots of data points and the humans who need either the output or they need to do the input into those items. Phase 3, testing and validation. So there'll be a process of testing and making sure that these workflows and these automations and the AI outputs and the AI prediction, as well as the AI connection and extracting and connecting of data, is working properly. So we validate and test. Step 4 is deploying and training. So we will go in and roll this out in your departments for a specific individual, and we'll make sure those people are trained. And then lastly, monitor and support. There's always a place for constant and never-ending improvement. The beauty about having done this and often crunching an entire workflow into a fully automated, AI-driven or AI-leveraged process is that all we need to now do is keep on tweaking those as the technologies improve over time. So my invitation to you today is to take on an AI-driven supply chain optimization project or plan in your organization. So the idea is for you to start thinking about it, to take the first step to enhance your operational efficiency and achieve your business goals. And the way to do that would be to invite us into your world for 90 minutes. We'll come and share what we think are immediate improvements that you can implement in your organization. And if you want to continue the conversation, we'll go into a deep dive process. So we'll do a preliminary assessment, and then we'll do a deep dive process where we'll go through maybe 2, 3, or 4 specific areas that you might want to address, which are pain points to you, or it could be areas that you think we can get the quickest wins. We deep dive that, map out the workflows, build out the actual automation and AI technology there to show you and your employees and that, as well as your shareholders and other stakeholders, that you can take various workflows and crunch them down often into only one step or no steps, and that AI can then become your superpower, and you can rather be busy with the things that are going to make a difference to your business, as opposed to doing the manual busy work that just sometimes just drives people crazy or that's error prone. So I'd like to invite you today, please click on the link, subscribe, please, if you can, and then invite us to your office. Let us come and do that 90-minute presentation, and let's start discussing and opening up this new world to you, and see how you can use AI in your organization. Thank you very much for joining me today again on this wonderful podcast, and see you again next week.